You're on.
Thank you, Chair. I might come back to Inland Rail, but I'll start elsewhere and see how I'm going for time. So thank you, and thanks, Mr Fullerton. Can you give me an update on the current works and status of the rehabilitation on the Albury-Melbourne rail line, please? As I understand there are still speed restrictions in place.
Yes, there are a few, but I must say that the performance of the track continues to improve, and it's probably operating the best it's been probably for 6 or 7 years in terms of impact on train running.
So, any more details in terms of when you expect to have completed major works?
Well, I think we've always said that we'd be finishing this program in December 2016. We expect that work to be finished within 12 months because we tried as best we can to bring that work forward, given the scope of that work. I think the performance of the track really is now consistent, which has always been our objective, to get it consistent with the rest of the network. I can probably say that is the case now when we compare the speed restrictions on that section to other parts of our network and the train running performance. V-line trains are running well, the XPT is running well, the freight trains are running well. We, still got further work to do, and I'd like to get through another winter and form a view about the work that we've done, because as I've said before to this committee, it's a complex problem. We've made great progress. The performance of the track today is probably, as I said, the best it's been probably for 8 years, and that's reflecting in train running performance.
Okay, so you're confident that it's now pretty much up to the level of the rest of the network?
We're confident that it's got to the level of the rest of the network, and we're confident of being able to sustain it. We're conscious that there's still issues that we're conscious of.
Still a few, though.
Okay.
And we were.
In the last round of estimates, Mr Fullerton, you took a question of mine on notice and undertook that the ARTC would provide written documentation with specific engineering advice or commentary to demonstrate why the ARTC had formed the view that the Australian Transport Safety Bureau's finding in their report in 2013, basically that there was more extensive formation failure than the ARTC believes, why you'd formed that view, and any documentation between yourself and the Australian Transport Safety Bureau. So what I got back in response was very general. In fact, it was a letter that had been sent to MPs and councillors that actually didn't mention formation failure as an issue at all. And so I'm just wondering, I want to ask the question again. Could you please provide me with any written documentation that explains why there is a difference of opinion between yourself and the ATSB?
Well, there isn't any other documentation. I think, Senator, we did provide what documentation we had, and I think what I said to the committee at the last meeting was that we had, with that report, which is a very comprehensive report, and we support, many of the findings from that report that we've implemented. We, and through our investigation of the problem at the time, we didn't think that the formation was the contributor to the extent that the ATSB recognised. And although we did recognise there were some formation failures, and we have replaced a number of kilometres of formation where we identified it had failed, but we've always been confident in our own assessment and assessment by others that the bulk of the problem was to do with ballast condition.
Yes, I understand the difference between you and
I
what
think,
the ATSB
yes, and
said.
I think the work that we have done to date and the success we've had achieved to date, I think demonstrates that the solution that we have identified is working.
I'm still trying to unpick why there is that difference of opinion. I'm going to ask the ATSB as to whether they still think there's a difference of opinion. I mean, you said last time that there was continuous liaison with us because it was a full comprehensive investigation by them. So that continuous liaison to me would imply that there should be some documentation or some correspondence, some analysis of why there's a difference between yourself and the ATSB.
Yeah, I guess that question may be best put to the ATSB, but we did a thorough investigation of the track on what we believe were the problems, and that's what we've been implementing.
Yes, but you still haven't addressed why there is a difference of opinion between yourself and the ATSB.
Well, I mean, not everybody agrees with our rectification program, depending on talking to engineers, but we've had to form a view based on extensive consultation on what the problem is.
We're not getting anywhere, Mr. Fullerton. I mean, ATSB have got a different view from you.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I and the stakeholders I'm representing want to understand why there is a difference of opinion.
Well,
Mr. Fullerton actually just explained exactly why
all
there
he
is
is
a
repeating
difference.
is that there is a difference of opinion.
Yes, there is.
We understand that. We know there is a difference of opinion.
And there is a
what
difference.
we want to understand is why.
But there is a difference of opinion and about the extent of the formation problem. We formed a view that it was other problems that were causing it, and we've had to
formed a different view.
Well, that's true, but we've had to back what our analysis has been and got on it. And we've got the most important thing from the work that we've done to date is that we've had success in fixing the problem.
As far as success in, you've had a year or more. I mean, whether there's still success 5 or 10 years down the track will be
I think,
a critical issue, won't it?
Well, it is an important issue, but I think you need to remember that this track it's old formation. And I think the ATSB report identified that it's old formation, it's in difficult soils, it's black soils that actually move around.
Okay.
And what we have said, that once we get the track to a standard consistent with the rest of the network, we will maintain the track to a standard to deliver the performance to our customers. And if, no doubt, in 2 or 3 years' time, a problem may emerge, but, we've got the skills to get on and fix it. Our key measure is delivering on-time running for our customers.
You're still not answering my question as to why there was a difference between opinion. Let's leave it there.
Because our assessment was different to theirs.
Yes,
and
that's what I'm trying to unpack as to
and
why.
we are backing our assessment.
Okay, you're backing it, but you haven't given me any documentation or any reasoning as to why your assessment is just
because
for
we
them.
did.
But look, let's leave it.
Pausing there. Are we talking about Albury to Melbourne, or where are we talking about?
Yes.
Well, it's really Melbourne to Sydney all the way through.
You don't know much about the land and farming if you don't know that that's... It depends on the bloody weather.
No, but
it depends on... hang on, I'm telling you. I know they're going backwards, and it depends on the bloody... obviously on the basin under it.
Yes.
I mean, for God's sake, you can't say it's like farming. You can't tell what's going to happen in this time next year.
We've got two expert organisations that have got two different opinions.
Yeah, but experts are, drips under pressure.
I think, Senator, if I can make a final comment, I think there's far more things that we agree on in that report than we disagree on. I think we agree on 95%.
Okay, look,
of the issues that they found.
I will ask the ATSB what their opinion is when we speak with them. Continuing on then, with relation to the temporary speed restrictions on the Albury to Melbourne line, I've been trying to keep on top of the issue and its effects on locals, but it seems difficult to get information on the speed restrictions that are in place. So am I correct in noting that your WebRAMS website is the system used to publish train notices and speed restrictions? Yep, that's...
Yes.
Yes. But that's only accessible by approved stakeholders. Is that the case?
Well, that's right. I think the important thing for us, our measures that are on our website, it's on the ACCC. On our website is an obligation under the ACCC access undertaking, and we provide monthly stakeholder reports on our track performance. And I think that highlights the level of speed restriction on the track.
I mean, the frustration that the stakeholders talking to me is that they find it difficult to get that information. So, why is it that information on train notices and speed restrictions is on a password-protected website? Why can't you make it available to everybody?
Well, because our obligation under our agreements is to provide services to customers, and those trains, we're meeting all our lease obligations with the Victorian Government, well and truly, and those lease obligations define speed restrictions, they define train running times, and they define a track quality index. We are well below the thresholds of those lease agreements. Therefore, we are meeting our obligations contractually
with the
Victorian Government. We're meeting our obligations with the train operators in terms of the access agreements, and we're meeting our obligations with the rail safety regulator, well and truly.
But do you accept that it would actually make you be seen to be a better, corporate citizen if you actually had that information more directly available to the people who are relying on the train service, rather than having to wait for V-Line to pass on the information?
I think ARTC has received a lot of feedback from the communities, and I think we're best fixing the problem, and providing on-time running for our customers, which we are doing at the moment, and our track's consistent with the rest of the network, and we're meeting all our contractual obligations.
But in brief then, what that means is that passengers need to wait for V-Line to pass on the information rather than directly being able to access information themselves about their local train line.
I think, Senator, realistically, the timetabling and scheduling of passenger trains is V-Line's responsibility. So they do need to tell their customers what the train schedule is. They have the information about the track. That it's their responsibility to pass it on. And I don't think it's reasonable to expect that ARTC would pass
I think
that on.
it seems to be a fairly simple thing that ARTC could do that would make the passengers much more, much happier and having that information. I mean, that information is power. It makes them and enables people to be able to make decisions about how they're going to travel.
And that's very true, and we'd certainly support that, but I think it's V-Line's responsibility to tell their passengers about when the trains, start, arrive, leave, depart.
Correct.
Junet's a railway town. Is there some problem with knowing when the train's going to arrive, are you saying?
Yes, if there are delays and speed restrictions, that ARTC had that information on a
comes up on the bloody station. You can ring up and say how far behind is the train. It's like an airline if there's a fog.
Yes, but it's too late at that stage when you're at the station.
Yeah, you're out of touch.
You can ring up. No, I'm not out of touch. With great respect, I'm not. You can ring up and they'll say the train's at Barrel and it's due at Junee at 1:10.
These are very reasonable suggestions, Chair.
Okay. All right. Can I just follow up on some of the discussion about inland rail? And I'm sorry I missed the beginning of Senator Gallagher's question, so I may be going over some old ground. But can I just check what stages are the inland rail pre-construction works currently at? I've got your timeline here in front of me, so just...
Right. Well, the three pieces of work that we're currently working on in terms of our role in delivering the work. We went out for tender in March this year for the engineering design and environmental work associated with the section of track from Parkes to Narromine, and also for the section of track from Narrabri to North Star. And we're currently assessing those responses from design companies, and we'll make a decision shortly.
The inland rail, the 2010 inland rail alignment study had a construction timeline of 5 years with up to 3 years allowed for preparation. And I've got the timeline here in front of me that sort of maps out all of your activities in that 3 years of preparation. So I just wanted to know how far in terms of that preparation are we from year zero?
Well, our latest brief for the project, which kicked off last year, was to develop a 10-year construction program, which we've completed, and to identify early start works that were approved by the Inland Rail Implementation Group 6 months ago. And those early start works were the three pieces of work that I mentioned a bit earlier: Narromine to Parkes, Narrabri to North Star, and from Toowoomba to Kangaroo.
So that timeline of 3 years of preparation plus 5 years, which was identified in the 2010 study, you've now stretched that out to 10 years. So that was an 8-year period of 3 years.
I think that 2010 work is no longer relevant, because in kicking off this latest work, we were asked to put together a 10-year construction program to complete the project by 2020.
So why has that 8 years gone out to 10 years?
Senator, it was in election of the current government that the project be delivered as a 10-year program. The reality is it's a very long and detailed construction program that needs to be developed and implemented, and it's obviously dependent on funds being made available, planning processes which are not entirely in the control of the Commonwealth or the ARTC.
So there's no. You can't give me a definitive reason, though, as to why the 8-year period, which was identified in the 2010 study, has now gone out to 10.
The ARTC is delivering a construction schedule based on what they were asked to do by government.
Okay. Okay, well, perhaps it's a question for government then as to why we had a 2010 study that said it was going to be an 8-year period, 3 years of pre-construction, 5 years of construction, and that's...
Senator,
but what's being delivered now is 10 years. I'm just interested to know why it's blown out by an extra 2
I think
years.
Previous government, my understanding is also they let it languish. So then we've had to step in.
Okay.
If you want.
Yeah, look, I don't know how much the previous government did and how much this government did. So
Or
that
didn't,
may be, that may be,
or didn't.
That may be the answer. But
and Senator, I think it's also fair to say that the current work is at a far greater level of detail than the 2010 study was.
yes, so that's. Well, I suppose
So that was
is
effectively
there-
a
is there reason,
pre-feasibility study.
If you can tell me that yes, it's more complicated. I have since identified that we needed to do X amount of more work, so it's going to take an extra 2 years.
And requires more work. I think one of the things, as Mr Fullerton's indicated on the sections which he's got priority work on, for instance, we made some assumptions in 2010 about the condition of that track and its ability to operate at higher axle loads. That's proven to be not as accurate as we'd feared.
Well, would you be able to take on notice then, perhaps putting together some information about why what was seen to be an 8-year project in 2010 is now a 10-year project?
Yeah, certainly. Certainly.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Time is flying.
Okay, I've just got 2 more questions about it. And so, given that, do we have a guarantee that work's going to actually begin, that construction will actually begin in this term of government?
I think that is the strong intention of government. They'll await the implementation report from the Honourable Joe Anderson, and we envisage the government then taking some very quick decisions on the program.
But you can't guarantee it, but it's...
As I said, it's a very strong commitment by government, but they're awaiting the implementation report, which will include the capital costs.
Okay, and what is the government's then long-term commitment to the full $5 billion capital cost?
Well, as I said, they will await the final report and business case and then make some decisions.
And when's that final report due?
It's due about July.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.